This is the full in-depth review of the new Wilson C300 irons and the Wilson C300 forged irons. I'm going to take these irons through a thorough test on GC quad with Pro V1s and out on the golf course to see how these clubs perform. I'm Rick Shiels down here at Quest Golf Academy. If you are new to my channel, welcome. Hit that subscribe so you don't miss any of the videos. If you enjoyed this video, smash that like button and leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you think of the review. Let me know what you think of these Wilson irons. So power holes is the big talking point with the C300 and C300 forged. They brought out two sets. Quite simply, the C300 is more for your higher handicapper, maximum forgiveness, bigger head size. And then the C300 forged is a smaller head shape, still packed with these power hole technology, but a weaker lofts to suit more probably for the better player. Let's talk about the power holes first in the normal version. So these are slots effectively going from the bottom, toe, and even on the top of the club head. So the top edge of the leading line almost has power holes in. And effectively the slots filled with urethane, a squishy soft material which Wilson are claiming is going to give more distance by increasing deflection by 27.3%. It's a bold statement. And then to accompany the C300s, they've also brought out C300 forged irons. Now the forging process makes the metal feel softer, gives it a different response. With that as well, with this iron, they've made it in a smaller head, so there is nowhere near as many power holes, these slots with urethane in them. Bottom, they are present, and on the toe they are present, but on the top line they are not. And actually when you get down to, I think the 9 and the pitching wedge do not have power holes in. So they are a slightly different club. And also they come in weaker lofts, which we'll talk about. So I've got the 5, the 7 and the pitching wedge to test. And just to give you some idea on loft numbers, we've got the C300, so the normal version. The 5 iron for that is 24 degrees, where the forged 5 iron is 26 degrees. So 2 degrees of difference. The normal C300 7 iron is 31 degrees, where the forged is 33 degrees. Again, that 2 degree separation between the two sets. And then the original C300 pitching wedge is in at 44 degrees, where the forged is 45 degrees. There is also a price difference of these two irons by about £100 or dollars, depending where you're buying them from. So the original C300 set are £700 or just short of $800. Yet the forged set are actually £800 and coming in the US at just under $900. So I tested these on GC quad with real Pro V1s, and I also took them out on the golf course to see if there's much of a difference. Let's have a look at the numbers first, and then we'll talk about what I found out on the golf course as well. So looking at the data, let's start off with 7 irons from both sets. We've got the C300s and the C300 forged. What we see the difference of is a staggering 10 yards. So the C300 7 iron was carrying at 178 yards, where the forged 7 iron was only carrying at 168, so 10 yards difference. The forged iron also spun a little bit more, but not a huge amounts of spin, quite low on the spin number at only 5.5 RPM. So let's have a look at the 5 irons. C300 5 iron first, that was average carrying at 204 yards. The C300 forged iron, 5 iron, was carrying at 194 yards. So again, a 10-yard difference between these two sets. 4,200 spin on the forged and under 4,000 spin on the C300 5 iron. So definite difference in spin and without question a difference in distance. But that really comes down to the 2 yards of 2 degrees of separation between the 5 irons and the 7 irons. Because when we look at the pitching wedges, we start off with the C300 pitching wedge, carrying at 138, spinning at just under 8,000 RPM. When we pick up the C300 forged pitching wedge, they were carrying almost identical distance at 139. And again, we see a similar pattern where the spin was increased by about 500 RPM, which is significant enough, but it's not going to see huge differences out on the golf course. So the baseline is the C300 goes about 10 yards further than the forged, but the feel between these two golf clubs were far more separated than the distances. The C300 standard version I found that it was quite hard, clicky, not a pleasant sound when I hit the C300. It felt like whether it was the power holes, whether it was the urethane around the golf club, gave it a very different noise to what I experienced normally with hitting power irons. Definitely a clicky sound, which maybe I wasn't expecting, seeing that it had more urethane in it, which is typically a much softer material. But it didn't give me that feel. It was a feel that was kind of borderline unpleasant for how clicky and loud it was. Yet when I hit the C300 Forged, I mean, this was completely different. The feel was spectacular. I have been using the V6 Forged irons, and these felt exactly the same as the V6 Forged irons, which is more of a premium set. The C300 Forged felt exactly the same. The feel off them were exceptional, and to be fair, the performance was very, very good. Now, you'd expect probably to find that, considering if I was to look at being fitted into a set of these, it would probably be more the C300 Forged. But that's just the findings that I had with these two golf clubs when testing them indoor. Then I took them outside. I took them to Nelson Golf Club, and I hit the 5, the 7 and the pitching wedge out on the golf course to some very interesting findings. I was finding for myself the C300 Forged. I was hitting some really nice flights, kind of drawing it a little bit, but not too overdrawn. I was finding that misstruck seemed to give me a level of forgiveness that I wasn't expecting so much. Yet the C300 standard iron on the 5, the wedge and the 7 iron all had way more of a tendency of going to the left. And that's more to the fact that they're a little bit more upright. I was finding that I was starting to pull them and overdraw them a little bit too far to the left, which wasn't really ideal for me, but I could see the benefits for a higher handicapper. Someone who potentially might leak the ball a little bit to the right and wants more distance, then this could fit into that category quite nicely, even though the sound wasn't incredible. The worry I had was, were they going to stop into greens? And I hit some shots into the greens, and they surprisingly stopped great. Not so much because of the spin, but quite simply because of the height that they were going up at. The wedge, the 7 iron, and even the 5 iron on both sets seemed to get great peak heights. So even though coming down with low spin, they were landing on the green and stopping pretty quickly. As a conclusion, I think these irons look very sharp. I think the power holes on the top of the standard C300 is the only ugly factor in this iron compared to the more naked top line of the C300 Forge, which I much more preferred. I think the look from behind looked great. They look like a premium set, and for, you know, little change out of $1,000 or pounds, you'd expect to see that level of quality. As feel goes, for me, there was an outright winner with the C300 Forged, and as distance goes, there was a clear winner for the C300 normal version, because this went long. It really did, considering the lofts aren't silly strong. You know, 31 degree 7 iron is not silly strong. We see sets now that are easily under 30 degrees. So to have an iron that still goes that far, that still performs just as well as it did do, with not stupidly cranked up lofts, is really refreshing. It's just that personally, I didn't like the feel of this one compared to the feel I got off the C300 Forged. Would I put these clubs in the bag? The C300 Forged, you know what, I probably would. For me, the performance was great. They sat close to where I would normally see the V6 Tour that I currently use. The power holes are the only thing that potentially puts me off putting these in the bag. They just look a tiny bit gimmicky and a little bit cheap on the power holes themselves. But as an overall performance of a golf club and feel, it ticked every single box. Performance-wise was good. Looks-wise, it's got really attractive features, but then some really ugly features with the power holes. I don't feel like they did loads to benefit the golf shot. However, I can see why they will attract golfers to test them and hit them and get them to try them, because of the visible technology is very enticing for a lot of golfers. Guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the review. If you did, smash that like button. Leave me a comment down below. Have you tested Wilson irons? If so, which ones? And were you surprised or were you shocked? Did you like them or did you not like them? I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Welcome, I do loads of videos. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon so you don't miss any of the content. That was my full in-depth review of both sets of Wilson C300 irons. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time.